Hello again, this is Jasmina, and in this video I'm going to talk about finding your true facing direction. And by that I mean your facing direction with reference to true north. The easiest way to do this is to use Google Maps and make a UTM correction. So Google Maps and all surveys today use UTM north, which is different than true north. And there are ways to convert this, and I did this all for you. You can just add some data in on a little app below this video, and you'll be able to find out exactly where your true facing direction will be. That's the whole goal here. And the reason I want to do this is I want you to be able to find out what your true facing direction is, so you can look at that video about for what year, what do we have for good facing directions? What gives us a special formation for any given year? And then if you happen to be in one of those, you want to contact someone to help you activate that formation so you can feel the good. So what you need to do is put in your Google address into Google and get on the map and turn on the satellite image so that you can see your roof line. You'll then follow the directions on the remainder of this video. And when you're done, you can enter your latitude and longitude, or actually you can find your latitude and longitude at this website. It's a little bit persnickety. You should wait for a couple of the ads to load. Then you type in your address. And then you hit the find button. Don't hit return, because half the time it thinks there's a bot involved. And then you have to start all over again. So make sure you hit the find button. Now I'll go over these last steps at the end of the video too, so you don't have to remember it all right now. But once you do that, you enter the latitude and longitude you found here into my calculator, and then you apply the correction to your Google Maps facing direction, which I will now show you how to do. Now this is the table that you'll need ultimately when you're looking at the annual great houses, because I list it in terms of, mostly in terms of this. So I'm going to go on the next page. I'm going to put this table much bigger, and I'll pause for a while so that you can take a screenshot. So this is just an image of an area that I'm somewhat familiar with. And the reason I chose it is because we have two cul-de-sacs, and we also have a lot of variation. So this is a more interesting type of subdivision than one where they're just lined up in north, south, east, west kind of direction. Now in this location where these houses are located, just happens to be very close to the center of the UTM grid that they belong to. And so the correction from the facing direction we'll get from Google Maps is tiny. I cannot measure this tiny with a protractor. So, but if I'm on, if I have your site plan, I can make this correction because the site plan goes to like 4 digits. And so I could make that correction. But again, this only applies to this location. This is not for everybody. You need to use my calculator to find what correction you need for your house. So we have all these houses. Now I've pre-marked these because they're very clearly east 2 and north 2 houses. And there are a number of different houses here that is not so clear. And so what you first need to do is get a printout of of where your house is, you know, the maps, the Google Maps. And then you take a pen and pencil and you draw a line from on the side of your house and draw it all the way back. So behind your house, this line crosses the edge of the image. Now I've dulled this out a little bit so we can read the protractor better, but you don't need to do that. And So what you need to do is you need to set up your protractor like this. Now there is a right side up for a protractor. And usually, even when they have two scales, the outer scale will be set up like this if it's on the right side up. So 0 will be on the right, 180 on the left, and that's with the reading part pointed downwards. And if it's the other way around, flip the protractor over, and then it will look like this. So the things that you need to worry about is getting this line from 0 to 180 right at the edge of the image. And then the other thing you need to worry about is make sure that the crosshairs or holes, it depends on what type of protractor you have, is right over where your line crosses the edge of the image. Then you read the angle, and you read it from 0. Now in this case, we want to read from true north, or UTM north. And so that is, this angle here is 90 degrees. I think that's pretty clear. So to get the real angle from the UTM north, you've got to add 90 degrees. And so this is the facing direction in degrees for this particular house. And you do the same thing for anything where your line crosses the top of the image. This is how you would do it. If you have this set up, and we're reading this house right here, where your line crosses the left side of your image, this is even better. 0 is up here, 180 down here, right on the edge of the image. This is over the image, the reading side is over the image, and you can just measure the angle directly because this 0 is lined up with this 0. So that's the easiest one. This one's a bit tricky, and perhaps it would be easier if you actually had this repositioned so that this line would cross the side of the image. It would be a lot easier. But if this is the case, you treat houses on this side that have their line cross to the right of this line different than you treat houses that cross over here. So in this case, we know that this line here is lined up with north. So we want to measure this angle. So we measure the entire angle, and then we subtract 90 degrees. And this is the only time you subtract something. So once I've done this for all these houses, you actually get real readings. Now these have not been corrected for the modification or the subtraction of the 0.02 degrees, because I can't read that accurately anyway. So this is why I just left it this way. But you will likely have more of a difference. So we go to the other end of the subdivision, and I can tell that these are south 2, these are north 2, just by looking. This is slightly off of really strong south 2, but I'm quite sure that it is still a south 2 house. So we're only going to do these 4. If you were going to do these, it would be better to reposition the image. It's just not very easy to do them from here. So we do the same thing. We draw our lines, and then we put a protractor up. Now here's the case where we have the line, the directional line, crossing on the left side when we have it lined up on the bottom. And so then what you need to do is take this angle and add 270 degrees. And that's how you get the correct number for this one. Over here, it's slightly different. You have your angle that's measured from 0 to this, and then you add 180. And that should be fairly obvious. And what house we're measuring is this house right here. It's lined up there, so that's the house. On top, this is exactly what we did in the very first one. We took the angle and we add 90 degrees to it. So these are these houses. Now you notice I have this one in red. There's a reason for this. It is so close to the dividing line between West 3 and Northwest 1 that I can't tell from this what direction it faces. This is one house I would absolutely have to look at the site plan to see what direction this house faces, because it could be either one. And this is so close that, you know, it may not even have a definitive facing direction because it is so close. And this is why this isn't good enough. In this case, I would have to look at the site plan. The rest of these are far enough off from the edge, you know, they're more like in the middle of these ranges, that I'm comfortable. So, I mean, you can see this guy, it's 281. Well, that's just about in the middle of this one. So I'm confident about the rest of these. This is the only one I'm worried about. So again, once you've found from Google Maps what your facing direction is, measuring it with a protractor, then you go to this website and get your house's actual latitude and longitude. Stick that into my calculator that's below this video. And then there will be an answer. It'll say either add some number, that's the number of degrees, to your facing direction, or it'll say subtract whatever number of degrees from your facing direction. And then this is your true facing direction. This is all to get just this. Now you can go back and look at the table again to make sure that you haven't switched your facing direction. And then this is the one. This true facing direction is the one you want to look at when you look at the table for great houses in, the one that's up now is for 2022. And in December, I'll have one up for 2023. So you have ahead of a time, you know if your house may have a great facing direction or a great house for a given year. And if that's true, you really need to contact a feng shui practitioner to make sure you can activate it. I'm hoping you will contact me, but I'm not going to hold you to it. I think this information is important enough that everybody should know this. So I'd like to thank you for watching, and I hope to hear from you soon.